Hi, let's take a look at your MT6 LT5 affirmation. We have this parallelogram, Jklm. So since it's a parallelogram, we know the opposite sides are congruent, the opposite sides are parallel, the opposite angles are congruent, the diagonals bisect each other. All we're supposed to do on this one is we're supposed to find the slope of Jm. So I'm going to highlight J and M here. Remember, our slope formula is y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. So we're going to do that for Jm. So I'm going to say 3 minus a negative 1 all over negative 1 minus a negative 6. Well, 3 minus a negative 1 is 4. Negative 1 plus 6 is 5. So the slope of J to M is 4 to 5. I'll switch colors here, and let's find the slope of a line adjacent to JM. Well, adjacent means next to. So what line is next to JM? You could have chosen JK or ML. Either one is correct. I'm going to go with J and K. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight J and K. We're going to do the same thing. I think I'm going to use a different color here just to make sure we see that. So J to K, that's going to be 4 minus a negative 1 all over negative 2 minus a negative 6. So 4 plus 1 is 5. Negative 2 plus 6 is 4, so we get 5 to 4. These lines are not negative reciprocals. We can kind of guess that. You can see they're not perpendicular. Since they're not perpendicular, we are not going to choose rectangle. This cannot be a rectangle. Now, let's find the length of J to M. Well, remember, when you're finding length, we're going to use the distance formula. So it's the square root of x sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared. Well, if you notice from our slope formula, x sub 2 minus x sub 1, that's our denominator. And y sub 2 minus y sub 1, that's our numerator. So we've already done this part. So we're just going to say that's going to be the square root of 4 squared plus 5 squared. Or 5 squared plus 4 squared. If I want to be accurate, I want to have the x's first, although it doesn't matter. So that's going to be 25 plus 16, which is going to be the square root of 41. I'll do the same thing for JM now, the side adjacent to JM, which will be JK. And that will be 4 squared plus 5 squared. Oh, look at that. That's the square root of 41, isn't it? So since the adjacent sides are congruent, that makes this shape a rhombus. It's not a square, because if it was a square, it would also have to be a rectangle. So we only choose square if we choose both rectangle and rhombus. Okay, let's take a look at this one. We got a rhombus. And we're supposed to find angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, and angle 4. Well, since it's a rhombus, we know the diagonals bisect the angles. So in other words, this is 47 degrees here. And since we know a rhombus is a parallelogram, we have alternate interior angles. So angle 2 is 47 degrees. And angle 3 is 47 degrees. And we know the opposite angles are congruent, so that kind of makes sense. I do believe you had these two correct. Where you made the mistake on was angle 1. Angle 1 is not 47 degrees, because in a rhombus, the diagonals are perpendicular. It's not a rectangle, so the diagonals aren't necessarily congruent. In other words, angle 1 is going to be 90 minus 47, because we know angle 1 and angle 3 have to add to 90, which is what? 43 degrees. And then by the alternate interior angles, angle 4 is 43 degrees. And this last shape, which shapes are rectangles? Well, remember, rectangles are equal angular parallelograms, because we're told these are all parallelograms. It's not figure A, which you correctly told me was not. It is figure B, because you have a right angle there. And then look at figure C, also has a right angle. Well, figure C is a square, but a square is a rectangle. That's what we needed for that one. Now, I've reopened the quiz for you. Complete the quiz. And notice there's some work to show on this one. So if you get more than 84%, hand in your work. If you get less than 84%, take a picture and email it to me or upload it to Schoology.